Yeah. O mighty armed Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn of these from me. Text 14. The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. Text 15. Whatever is right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Text 17. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Text 18. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the 3 factors that motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer are the 3 constituents of action. Hare Krishna. So, I welcome everybody once more today for joining in our discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. We are, as I said, continuing on the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, talking about the topic of perfection of renunciation. And in this part of the chapter, actually, last time, if you remember, we started about talking about how actually the first section, first 12 verses of the chapter, it talks about this concept about how acting with detachment, it actually brings freedom from reaction. That if you do your actions without any attachment to the fruits of the activity, do your actions for Krishna and without attachment to the fruits of the activity, then there is no reaction. You don't get any reaction. That is called akarma. We discussed last time. Now, this section, what does it do? This section actually summarizes the Jnana Yoga, the chapters. So the previous 12 verses of this chapter summarize the first 6 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Karma Yoga section. And the last six chapters of the Bhagavad Gita actually are the Jnana Yoga section. And the middle 6 are the Bhakti Yoga section. So in this section of the Gita, in this section of the 18th chapter, Krishna is going to summarize the chapter 13 to 17, which relate to Jnana Yoga. So after summarizing his teachings, now Krishna describes from the viewpoint of Jnana that how it is possible to act, matlab karm karo bhi, and yet remain free from all reactions. So it is obviously, somebody may ask a question. When you are hearing the Bhagavad Gita, see, Bhagavad Gita is a very dynamic conversation that is happening between Arjuna and Krishna, 2 individuals. A lot of people, attach some sort of an allegorical significance to Bhagavad Gita, that, oh, this is the conversation between, the soul and the super soul, between individual person and the energy called God. No, it is not that. There is no while there is a philosophical understanding to be had from everything that Krishna speaks to Arjuna and Arjuna speaks to Krishna, the whole thing is not just some mythology or some some allegorical thing, so that अपने को कुछ एक concept समझ में आए. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Bhagavad Gita is a historical conversation that happens between Arjuna and Krishna, but it is the most significant conversation that has ever happened in history. Therefore, we must take these things, understand them, and see भाई अपने जिंदगी में ये कैसे लागू हो सकते हैं. So today also, at the end of it, we will try, at least I will make an effort from whatever best of my limited ability to try to synthesize between the first 6 chapters, which is Karma Yoga, and this section which refers to Jnana Yoga. What do we derive from it, right? And how do we understand, the summary, sankshipta mein, as they say, how do we understand what is Krishna saying in these verses? So, as he said, a question may be raised that since any activity that is performed, it must be having some reaction. Then how is it that the person who is acting in Krishna consciousness, that means doing activity for Krishna without attachment to the fruits that will come from that? I am doing this for Krishna, I am doing it to best of my ability, but इसमें से fruit आएगा आएगा नहीं आएगा, I am not attached to it. So then how is it that this इसको reaction लागू नहीं होता है? How is it that there is no reaction applicable to this? So Krishna answers, in this section from quoting from the Vedanta. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada refers that this Vedanta is the final stock of knowledge, right? The final stock. Matlab pura, there is so much knowledge available in the Vedic scriptures. There's so much knowledge available in the world. If today it is referred, I mean, if you go to a Google and you just search, there are probably trillions of web pages. Trillions, not even billions now. It has gone beyond billions. There are probably trillions of web pages with probably quadrillions or some uncountable gazillion number of information and data sitting in it. There's a lot of knowledge available in this world. If you really want to double click, there is knowledge about, I mean, if you really want to understand, there is so much we don't know. हमें लगता है कि हमें सब पता है. Like sometimes jokingly we used to say, I have an MBA. MBA matlab Master of Business Administration. But internally we think in Gujarati, mane baddu avde છે. matlab I know everything. In Gujarati we say mane baddu avde છે means I know everything. So MBA thinks usko sab malum hai. Usko actually kuch nahi malum hota hai. Even after doing an MBA, like you do an MBA from a premier institute and you go and join some company or you start your own business, 2 दिन में आटे दाल का भाव समझ में आ जाता है. You understand your औकात. You understand really you know nothing, because the situation on the ground is very different from what we have learnt in our college. So even the knowledge, the grand knowledge that we acquire from our engineering colleges or from our MBA colleges or from our medical colleges or anything, it doesn't prepare you for life. I am sure those who are doctors who recently graduated from maybe from KEM college or from Nair college or from LTMC college or from AIMS in Delhi, the best medical colleges in India, those who have graduated from these colleges, immediately they are thrown headlong into this pandemic. They won't know what hit them. अरे तुमने कुछ भी पढ़ा हो, that doesn't prepare you for life. Because there's so much to be known. There is so much knowledge in this world. There are so many situations that can arise. One situation plus another situation coming together creates a completely chaotic situation. It's like there is one pandemic, okay? There is one virus called corona virus or COVID-19, okay? There is one virus. But how this virus will affect Sridhama Sakha Das, how it will affect Sachin Akhade, how it will affect Sanjay Shah, how it will affect somebody else. Oh, absolutely no way of telling, because this person may be having comorbidities. Another person may be having low, what do you call that? Immunity. Another person may be having very strong body. So situation is different. So the same virus acting on 3 different bodies gives a different situation. A doctor has to know ये situation में क्या करने का, ये situation में क्या करने का. It's amazing. There is so much to be known in this world and we don't know. But then what do we need to know? Right? That's what. So the Vedas actually give us a lot of information. बहुत information है Vedas के अंदर कि अगर आपको इस material world में रहने का बहुत ज़्यादा शौक है, if you have a great desire to live in this material world, then you need to know what is in the Vedas. Veda basically means knowledge. So what knowledge is needed to survive in this material world, as well as to prosper in this material world, as well as to avoid suffering in this material world, as well as to ultimately get out of this material world. All is available in the Vedas. For people who are in mode of ignorance, there is knowledge. For people who are in mode of passion, there is knowledge. For people who are in mode of goodness, there is knowledge. Knowledge is there for everyone. Right? So, but this is so vast, so amazingly elaborate that for you and me, common people who have got limited intelligence, even less time and even minimum inclination, अपने को ये सब समझने का ना समय है, ना अकल है, ना इच्छा है, right? So therefore, there is something called Vedanta. Vedanta, it is the summarized knowledge of all the Vedas, all the essential truths of the Vedas are summarized in something called Vedanta. And that Vedanta is is considered the summum, is the ultimate matlab of all knowledge. Veda Anta, the end or the conclusion of all knowledge. That is what is referred to by Krishna in this section. He is referring to knowledge from the Vedanta. The Vedanta, incidentally, is like a you know, a very pithy, very summarized form of knowledge. They're like small aphorisms, small statements that are made. They are not elaborate. Vedas are very elaborate. One thing will have like 20 verses to explain. Vedanta will say it in one small phrase. So the Vedanta starts, the first aphorism of the Vedanta is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. And Athato in Sanskrit means therefore. Brahma Jigyasa. Right? So, have you ever heard of a book, any book in creation on any topic that starts with the word therefore? Well, normally, after an elaborate description, then the word therefore comes. Therefore, you must do this. But the Vedanta does not waste any time. It comes straight to the point. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Because you are in this material world, because you are not this body, because you're the spirit soul, because you are part and parcel of that Parabrahman, Supreme Lord, Athato, therefore, Brahma Jigyasa. You are suffering in this material world, you want to get out, therefore, Brahma Jigyasa. Understand, be curious to understand who is this God, what is my connection with him. So this is Vedanta, it is very powerful. So all acharyas, irrespective of which parampara they come from or what their philosophical basis is, they all respect Vedanta. Srila Prabhupada says. So Krishna is quoting from Vedanta, which is the final stock of knowledge. And in this section, Krishna offers this analysis to understand that how is it that even a person who is apparently acting like anybody else, even a Krishna conscious person or a person who is on the platform of akarma seems to be doing the same activities as somebody else who is not on that platform, who is acting out of his own will, his own whimsical desires. He or she is doing. So activity externally looks the same, but how is it? Isko action नहीं लगता है, इसको लगता है, इसको reaction नहीं लगता है, इसको लगता है, ऐसा कैसा? How is this possible? So we have to understand this. So Krishna offers this analysis to help us to become detached from seeing ourselves as the doers of all and therefore becoming bound. So the essence of this section is, if we think we are the doers of the activity that we are doing, whatever activity you're doing, with whatever inspiration, with whatever motivation you're doing, if you think you are the doer, I am the doer, मैं कर रहा हूं, मैं मेरे मेहनत मुशक्कत से मैंने ये कार्य किया, तो इसका जो फल मिला वो मेरा है. The moment we start thinking like this, we become bound. So Krishna gives us an analysis to rise above this, to become detached from this. So Srila Prabhupada quotes that in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita 15.15, we have studied this recently. Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham ridhi sanivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Right? Then he quotes the rest of it, says, Vedeshta sarve aham eva vedyo vedanta krit. Again, Vedanta is referred in that verse as well. So Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham ridhi sanivishto. I am residing in everyone's heart as Parmatma. Everyone's heart. Whether it is a heart of a boy, a man, a woman, a eunuch, a pig, a dog, an elephant, a plant. Sarvasya chaham. Sarvasya. Everyone. Mattah smritir. From me comes smritir. Smritir means memory. Jnanam means knowledge. Apohanam means forgetfulness. So Krishna, as the super soul residing in the heart, is the supplier of all memory. If you remember anything, it is coming from Krishna. If you forgot something, it is by the will of Krishna. If you have any knowledge, he is the supplier of them. Don't be proud. अरे मेरे को कितना आता है, मेरे को सब मालूम है, मैं बहुत ज्ञानी महाज्ञानी हूँ, मैं त्रिवेदी हूँ, मैं चतुर्वेदी हूँ. Wonderful. If you know all Vedas by heart also, most people don't know. We carry that surname Dvivedi, Trivedi, Chaturvedi, but हमें we are no Vedi. We don't know. But even if you know, you have to understand that knowledge is coming from Krishna. Because we have desires from our previous lives. In our previous lives, I might have desired, I want to become a king. I want to have a beautiful wife. I want to have great wealth. I want to be the most knowledgeable person in my class. I want to be a topper. I want to get into IIT. जो भी आपका desire हो, वो desire आपके subtle body के साथ store होता है. It is like storage, cold storage. But when you change bodies, the previous body is gone, so the brain is gone. It is not stored in the brain. It is stored in the subtle body and carried from this body, previous body, dehi nosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara, tata dehantara, deha anta praptir. You get another body. After this body is over, you get another body. Who carries the subtle body of the mind, intelligence, and false ego? Who carries it? It is the super soul who carries this subtle body from one body to the another body. And in that body, again, the super soul, he is engaging us in various activities based on what? Circumstances are created. Based on what? Based on our previous desires, based on our previous activities, based on our past actions and our past desires. The super soul reminds us, अच्छा बेटा, पिछले जन्म में तुम्हें सुंदर पत्नी चाहिए थी और तुम्हारा पिछले जन्म का कर्म नहीं था, तो आपने जो कर्म किया है उस कर्म के बेसिस पे ये लो सुंदर पत्नी. Here is an opportunity, now go and act, right? So this is how the Lord arranges everything. He reminds us of our past desires. He creates the circumstances, right? So in this section, very beautifully, Krishna is explaining how things all come together. Let's understand in the coming verses. So in the 14th verse, Krishna says there are 5 factors of action. Let us discuss what are those 5 factors, okay? He says there is the performer. The performer is who? The spirit soul. There is various kinds of endeavor. So this is the second thing. There is the performer, the various kinds of endeavor. Third, there is the place of action, which is the body, the sharira, or what is referred to in the 13th chapter as the field of action, right? If you remember the 13th chapter, we have discussed the kshetra, kshetrajna. So the kshetra is the body, kshetrajna is the soul, the knower of the body. Kshetra gnya. Gnya means knowing. Kshetra gnya is the soul, spirit soul, and the Parmatma residing within the kshetra, within the body. So there is the performer and the various kinds of endeavor. The third is the place of action, which is the body. The fourth is the various senses that we have: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the skin, the the hands, the legs, the speech, and so on, the working senses. So these are the senses. So this is the fourth thing. And the fifth ultimately is the super soul. So in this verse, with these 5 things, these are called the 5 factors of action. So each word, let us just quickly examine. The first one is called adhishtanam. Adhishtanam, or the place of action, refers to the entire body which is supported by the skeleton. This body is there, which is made up of 5 elements. See how all different topics that are touched upon in different parts of the Bhagavad Gita, we can, I mean, it is very difficult for a person with limited intelligence like me to bring it all together. Honestly, it is really difficult. I'm not being humble here. It is really very difficult to bring it all together. But let's try. Let's make an attempt, right? So there is this human body or any body, plant body, animal body, insect body, which is made up of these 5 elements, right? Krishna referred to it in the 7th chapter. Bhumir, Apo, Nala, Vayu, Kham. These body which is made up, these material elements, which is earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These 5 elements the body is made up of, right? It is called the adhishthanam, the place of action. The karta, the second thing is, we said, the second factor of action is the karta or the soul, the performer, who, when absorbed in material consciousness, when we think I am the body, we don't think, see, what is the meaning of self-realization? Some people say, oh, he is a self-realized soul. Self-realized ka matlab kya hai? Self-realized means one who understands, suddenly comes to the realization that I am not this sharir. ये जो चेहरा है, ये जो गाल है, ये जो नाक है, ये जो आंखें हैं, ये जो चेहरा है, ये जो गला है, ये जो हाथ है, ये जो छाती है, पेट है, ये जो पैर है, this body made up of these 5 elements, 5 gross elements and 3 subtle elements of mind, intelligence, false ego. I am not this body. I am the soul that resides in this body, and because I am attached to this body, thinking I am this body, therefore I am in this material world. Moment I realize that, Baba, I have got nothing to do with this. I am the soul. I am eternal. I am not this temporary body which is constantly dehinasmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara. It is just undergoing transformations continuously. I am not this body. I am the soul. It is eternal. Eternal. It doesn't change. It is not affected by na soshuyata marutaha na kledyantyaapo. It cannot be cut. It cannot be affected by the wind. It cannot be affected by fire. Nothing. The soul is eternal. That is self-realization when we understand. But because we are in material consciousness, we think nothing like this. हम लोग ऐसा कोई चीज सोचते नहीं कि बाबा मैं शरीर नहीं हूँ, मैं तो आत्मा हूँ जो इस शरीर में रहता है. I am very much only thinking about the body. I am thinking I am the body. This body is now hungry. I must eat. This body is now thirsty. I must, or this body, we don't think this body, we think I am thirsty. I must now pick up a bottle of water and I must drink. I am hungry. Therefore now I must pick up something and I must eat. I am feeling lusty. Therefore now I must find an object and I must have sex. This is what is called bodily consciousness. We are thinking I am this body. I want this. Therefore I will enjoy. As long as we are in this kind of material consciousness, we will remain in this material world. That's the point that is being said here. The karta, ultimately soul, who when absorbed in material consciousness acts through false ego. Now when he acts, how does he act? What are the instruments? Like a surgeon, when he has to perform a surgery, he needs instruments. He needs a scalpel, he needs a suction pump, he needs so many things, he needs gloves. So these are all the instruments. What are the instruments? The karanam, or instruments, are the parts of the body which are the senses. So this is the third. We spoke about adhishtanam, which is the body. We spoke about the karta, which is the soul. We spoke about the karanam, or the instrument, which are the senses. The fourth one is the endeavour, cheshtha. Cheshtha is the overall endeavour which is performed through the senses. So I have senses. I have working senses like the hands and the legs, right? I have told myself that, hey, already तुम आधे घंटे से बात कर रहे हो. You are thirsty. I am thirsty. Therefore, now the working senses, the hand picks up the bottle like this. It lifts it to the mouth. And it drinks, right? So I have made an endeavor. I picked up the bottle, I opened it, I lifted it to my mouth and I started drinking. This is the cheshta. This is the effort that is being made by the working senses to fulfill the desire of the living entity to drink water. Because living entity thinks, I am thirsty. I am the body, I am thirsty. I hope this is clear. I'm trying to, simplify it as much as possible, right? And then till this point, everyone is thinking, I am thirsty, right? I have this body, adhishtanam. With that, I have these working senses, and I make the effort. I make the effort of picking up the bottle, opening it, and drinking it. Everywhere, it is I only. My body, my senses, my endeavor, my desire. I. But Krishna says there is one fifth element, fifth factor of action, and this is the most important factor of action, which is Daivam, the super soul. The super soul is the ultimate controller over all other factors. He is the Parmatma, he is the Lord of everything within the material world. Let us discuss briefly how the super soul affects everyone, all the other four factors, how they affect it. Now, I think I am this body, I am thirsty, right? If the Lord doesn't desire it, I will keep on speaking. At some point, I will get dehydrated. That desire will not come in my mind only, that I am thirsty. At one point, I will get dehydrated. I will get cramps because of not drinking water. And I'll keep on speaking. And I will fall sick if the Lord wants. So, the fact that I am feeling thirsty is because the reaction has been created because of speaking. I have started feeling dryness in the mouth. The Lord has reminded me from within that beta pani piyo. So now I've drunk. Then there is the body, right? I feel that okay, this body is going to now, act on this. So the body will not even get the feeling of the, like, so often sometimes when you're speaking एकदम एंथू के साथ बात कर रहे हैं तो याद भी नहीं आता है, प्यास आया है बट याद भी नहीं आता. The body just keeps speaking. I just keep talking and I don't even remember that I should be drinking water. I need to hydrate. याद भी नहीं आता है. So the body is also controlled by super soul. The senses, the working senses. Now, for me to be able to go down like this and lift up the bottle, this working sense of the left hand has to work, no? If the left hand is paralyzed just when I'm bending down, just as I reach the bottle, as it has happened many times to me in the past, those of you who know me for the last 20 years know that I'm always ridden with back pain, right? Suddenly, while I'm bending down, I get a spasm in my back. And bottle chodo, abhi to lecture bhi band karna padega. I cannot talk further because I got a spasm in my back. So even the working senses are controlled by Parmatma, right? So, and the effort, the endeavor of the senses, the endeavor that मेरे को कुछ करना है, that enthusiasm to work, the memory that I should work, the intelligence with how I should work, all of that is coming from the super soul. Daivam Parmatma. This Parmatma, Sarvasya Chaham Ridhi Sannivishto Matta Smritir Jnanam Apohanam. So the memory also comes from him, forgetfulness also comes from him, and the knowledge, if you decide, if he gives you the memory that aise abhi bhaiya tum pani piyo because you are thirsty, even the knowledge of how to pick up this bottle and drink it without while talking. अभी हमको लगता है we say that oh there are voluntary action, involuntary action. Involuntary action क्या होता है भाई? What is this involuntary action? Where you are not even conscious that you are drinking water, but you are drinking water. What is this involuntary action? Involuntary action is something that is happening in autopilot. Autopilot का क्या मतलब है? In a plane, when a plane is going, sometimes the pilot switches off, puts it on autopilot. He goes and drinks a nice hot cup of coffee. आराम से वो अपना coffee पीता है. He's talking to the passengers. Now we are cruising at 35,000 feet above the sea level and so on. आराम से बातें कर रहा है. If he is actually running the plane, he can't talk so comfortably because he's on autopilot. Autopilot का मतलब क्या है? something is running the plane even when the pilot is not running it. Who is that something? That something is the Supreme Lord. The Parmatma is running our body when it is running in autopilot. So it is amazing. This whole concept of these five factors is so amazing. How all of them come together so that everything happens. We will discuss. So the senses are the instruments of action, and for every action there is a kind of endeavor, right? So let's try to understand the chain of action, how things happen. First, the jiva. So Gurujan Prabhu explains this very nicely. So I will just read it out and then we will discuss it. Okay. He says the chain of action, right? How action, any action happens in this material world. Just pay attention for a moment. This is very important, so that we are all on the same page and we understand. Okay, just one moment. Please put a message. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So just so we understand, Gurujan Prabhu says the jiva receives from the Supreme Lord a body and senses endowed with specific potencies, of which he then becomes the proprietor, right? So the jiva, the spirit soul has got nothing to do with the material world, but because I have a desire to enjoy in this material world, because I want to enjoy, therefore I'm given a body. That body and senses endowed with specific potencies. On what basis? On what basis one person is able to, is able to run a business effortlessly? Another person is not able to do it. वो भी business खोलता है लेकिन वो नहीं कर पाता है. वो भी fight मार रहा है. वो भी कोशिश कर रहा है प्रमोशन लेने की अपने जॉब में, लेकिन उसे नहीं मिलता है, किसी और को मिलता है. उसके पास नहीं है वो पोटेंसी, उसके पास नहीं है वो specific ability. He doesn't have that ability. He is endeavoring, but he doesn't get. So endeavor itself is not sufficient. Sanction of the Lord is also needed. So jiva receives a body and senses endowed with specific potencies. Based on what? Based on guna, based on karma, based on desire. Whatever karma you have done in previous life and whatever desires you have, some combination you get in this lifetime. So some amount of success, some amount of failure is already वो सॉफ्टवेयर डाल के भेजा है आपके शरीर के अंदर कि इस शरीर में ये शरीर इतना ही कर पाएगा, वो चलो इससे थोड़ा और कर पाएगा, बस उससे ज्यादा नहीं होगा. आप कितना भी एंडेवर कर लो नहीं हो पाएगा. This much your software is written in your body that इतना आप कर सकते हो. So much specific potencies are given. Very powerful words. Of which this body that I've received and these senses that I've received, endowed with specific potencies, I become the proprietor. Now, we cannot debate this, okay? We may feel, ye galat hai, ye kuch bhi hai. No, it is a fact. When you do, I mean, many of you would have done aptitude tests as children. Or some of you may have done aptitude tests for your children. When you do an aptitude test में ऐसा आता नहीं है कि आपका बेटा जो है वो ब्रिलियंट है, हाई इंटेलिजेंस, वो कुछ भी कर सकता है. He can do arts, he can do commerce, he can do science. Sometimes aptitude tests are useless because they tell you can do everything, which basically tells you don't know what to do now. You're more confused. But sometimes they tell you this person has no spatial intelligence. मतलब, spatial intelligence means, like for example, I don't have very good spatial intelligence. Therefore, I was told कि तुम कुछ भी बन सकते हो, लेकिन तुम आर्किटेक्ट नहीं बन सकते. आर्किटेक्ट के लिए स्पेशल इंटेलिजेंस लगता है कि ये हाथ है, इसको ऐसे घुमाए तो कैसे दिखेगा, इसको ऐसे घुमाए तो कैसे दिखेगा. ये माउस है, ये माउस को ऐसे घुमाए तो कैसे दिखेगा. So that is spatial intelligence, right? Now, if I don't have it, I don't have it. I'm not born with that specific potency. मैं फिर चाहे जितना भी फाइट मार लूं, मैं बहुत मेहनत करूं, great effort, I may still become an architect, but I'll not be so good at it. I'll not be the best of my profession. I have to accept it. अभी मैं उसके लिए जितना भी डिबेट करूं भगवान के साथ, ये क्या है, ये अन्याय है, मुझे ऐसा शरीर क्यों नहीं दिया. अभी नहीं दिया तो नहीं दिया भाई. आप अपने शरीर के अगेंस्ट जाना चाहते हो. What your body is telling you, it is giving you certain signals. It is telling you your body is suited for these kind of activities. Do that. Guna karma. But ना, हम तो अपना करेंगे. चलो करो. Fight with material nature. Try to win a losing battle. You won't succeed. But try. We have to endeavor. We keep trying. So that's what it is. There is endeavor. There is a body, there are senses, there is endeavor. There is a soul's desire. But then there is Parmatma who decides whether all these four together will they succeed or they will not succeed. Decide the Lord. So once a person gets this body, he becomes the proprietor of that body. ये शरीर का proprietor. क्षेत्रज्ञ. Right? I become the proprietor. I've been given this body. I become like the proprietor of this body. Now, acquiring those potencies, what does the jiva do? The jiva exerts his free will. Beautiful words given by Gurujan Prabhu. So let's just pay attention here, okay? He says, acquiring those potencies. I've got that body. ये शरीर मिला है जिसमें एक बोलने की क्षमता है, एक देखने की क्षमता है, एक सुनने की क्षमता है, एक सूंघने की क्षमता है, एक छूने की क्षमता, gross and fine motor skills. You have seen there are some people who have got gross motor skills, but they don't have fine motor skills. Those who have gross motor skills, great hand-eye coordination, specific potency, they're very good in sports. They're good in playing musical instruments. But those who don't have it, उनकी तरफ बॉल पकड़ो, वो लोग ऐसे करेंगे, बट बॉल हाथ में ही नहीं आएगा. बॉल हिट्स देम इन द फेस. बाय द टाइम दे गेज कि बॉल क्या स्पीड से आ रहा है, क्या ट्रैजेक्टरी से आ रहा है, वो करने तक बॉल निकल भी गया. दे आर नॉट एबल टू गेज. दे डोंट हैव दैट पोटेंसी. सम पीपल आर वेरी गुड विद नीडल वर्क, विद एम्ब्रॉयडरी, विद निटिंग. गिव द सेम थिंग टू समबडी एल्स, उसको 10 बार सिखाओ, वो नहीं सीख पाता है. नहीं है वो स्पेसिफिक पोटेंसी उसमें. Observe what is happening around you in material world and try to correlate with this. It is brilliant. Bhagavad Gita is absolutely brilliant. It has answers to everything. हर चीज का आंसर है भगवद गीता में. It is, and we speak this with the ultimate conviction because this is true. We can see this in action. So acquiring those potencies, the jiva exerts his free will and assumes control of his body and senses. Why? For the purpose of fulfilling karmic endeavors. अब मेरे पास ये शरीर आया है, इस शरीर के ये 5 senses हैं, 5 working senses हैं, 5 अलग. So there's the whole description of the 24 elements that are there. So, which is also there in the Gita. Prabhupada has explained in different places. I'll not get into that. But with whatever, अभी मेरे पास ये शरीर आ गया, ये क्षेत्र आ गया, ये senses आ गए. अब ये शरीर और ये senses के साथ मेरी इच्छा और मेरे endeavour के साथ I will try to do something. Right? This is what I'm thinking. I will fulfill karmic endeavors. The Supreme Lord present within all these coverings. What are these coverings? The 5 gross elements, the 3 subtle elements, the working senses, the pradhana, material nature, everything. Between all these coverings that is there on the soul inside, sarvasya chaham vidhi sannivishto. The Supreme Lord as Parmatma is residing within all these coverings. He sanctions the jiva's activity. That, like, it is like the spirit, like you may say that I have this plot of land, और ये plot of land में मेरे को एक 3 मंजिले का बिल्डिंग बनाना है. आप ये endeavor करना चाहते हो कि मेरे plot of land में 3 मंजिले का मेरे को बिल्डिंग बनाना है. Now what happens? Let us try to correlate, right, with the material world that we live in. How does this work? I may have a desire that I want to make this 3-floor flat on this plot of land. Maybe I've got a plot of land, let's say in here, let's say in Goa, okay. Everyone likes Goa. A lot of people like Goa. Devotees don't like so much, but yeah, Goa is still a nice place to be. At least naturally very beautiful place, right? I have this plot of land in Goa, and I want to make it a three-story building over there. Now what happens? What happens next? I have to consult what are the laws of the land in Goa. I can't just arbitrarily go and say I will make a three-story flat, right? I can't make a three-story apartment. पहला सवाल यह आएगा कि बाबा ये लैंड एनए लैंड है या एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड है. अगर एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड है तो आप 3 माले का बिल्डिंग बना ही नहीं सकते एनीवेयर इन इंडिया. What can you do? You can make at the most a ground floor and a first floor. It is called a farmhouse. You can't do anything more than that. Anything more than that illegal. आपने बनाया भी एंडेवर डाल के बनाया, मटेरियल नेचर विल नॉट कोऑपरेट. पहले ही कोई अधिकारी some official in that land who is responsible for that area, some corporator will come and somebody will complain and some corporator will come and they will break down your building कि ये illegal है. So you may have a desire कि मेरे को बनाना है, but जब तक आप laws नहीं follow कर रहे हो आप कर ही नहीं सकते. उसके बाद बोलते नहीं पापा, आई एम लॉ अबाइडिंग सिटीजन, मैं पहला इसको एनए बनाऊंगा, उसके बाद मैं 3 माले का बनाऊंगा. राइट नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस? नाउ यू हैव टू मेक अ अर्जी, a whole application form and give it to the authority sanctions it. Sanctions means what? Permits, allows. Without that sanction आप कोशिश करके देख लो, वो तोड़ दिया जाएगा. It will not succeed. So same way, with all the facilities that I have this body, I have these working senses, I have my own ichha, my desire, and I have my endeavor. ये 4 चीज काफी नहीं है. Sorry sir, काफी नहीं है. Still there is the sanction of the super soul who resides within the heart. He has to sanction the activity and he has to inspire him to act also. The inspiration also comes from within and the sanction also comes from within. So this is what is the role of super soul. So for example, let's talk about right now what we're doing. What are we doing right now? We're discussing the Bhagavad Gita, right? Now, why we are discussing Bhagavad Gita? Because I have got instruction from Remuna Prabhu, our Rajshekar Prabhu of HPCL. He started this program 10 years back, restarted this program 10 years back, and he came and told me, Prabhu, can you please come and give lectures? He said, you must give. He kind of ordered me. I said, okay, I will come. Right? So now I decide that I want to speak Bhagavad Gita. What happened here? The spirit soul, thinking that I am the speaker, I will speak. I decided to speak. I have expressed my desire. Ichha. Right? The Ichha is there. So I am the quote unquote karta who thinks I am the soul who has this desire. I want to do this. Now, after this, with this body, I use what senses I have been given. The sense of sight, I read the Bhagavad Gita. The sense of intelligence, to understand what is written by Srila Prabhupada in those verses, the translation, the purport. Then I refer to Gurujan Prabhu's surrender unto me. I try to correlate what Prabhupada has said, what Gurujan Prabhu has said, and I try to kind of synthesize some points. I gain that knowledge, I note it down, I put down certain points, but after all this activity and endeavor that has been done by this body and these senses, what happens? Now I have to speak. When I speak, that endeavor of speaking, the words that are coming out, believe me, are not the words that are written here. The words maybe, I keep referring, like you'll see, I look at these points that I've written here. But a good 30-40% of the words are just coming like that only. They are not something that I have planned to speak. They are just coming. Where are they coming from? They are coming from the Parmatma. Because at the start of this lecture, before we start the lecture, what do we say? Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. We are surrendering to Guru. We are saying, I am born in the darkness of ignorance. I am a fool number one. मुझे कुछ नहीं आता है. Oh Gurudev, by your blessings, and by your blessings only, by your grace, by your permission. We say prayers that He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. I pay obeisances to you, my Lord. Vancha Kalpatarubhescha Kripa Sindhu Bhevecha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama. I pay obeisances to the Vaishnavas who are like desired trees. By their blessings only I can speak a few words. So these words that come, you may put all the endeavor, पूरा इधर उधर पूरा दुनिया भर का रेफरेंसेस पढ़ाई करके तुम आके इधर बात करने चालू करोगे, the words will vanish if the Lord doesn't desire it. It is all happening simply by the will of the Lord. Now, you may have spoken because the Lord gave you the sanction to speak. Okay? रेमुना प्रभु ने बोला, इंस्ट्रक्शन दिया, बात करो. तुम्हारे मन में इच्छा आई, चलो मैं बात करता हूं. कहीं पे इच्छा ये भी है कि अच्छा बात करना चाहिए. I should speak well. So therefore I must prepare well. So now the endeavor comes. I prepare. I work hard. पूरा मेहनत करता हूं. Right? And then I speak. The Lord is reciprocating with my desire. You want to speak well? Okay, here, take it. And He gives you the words. He provides you the language, the words, the examples, the analogies. They just keep flowing. आते रहता है. However, whether these words touch the heart of the recipient, अभी सामने वाला जो सुन रहा है, today, right now there are how many? There are like 27 people on this call right now, right? अभी ये 27 people में से एक भी व्यक्ति के हृदय को ये शब्द छू गए या नहीं छुए, this also is determined by the Lord only. It is not us, not my individual, scholarship or intelligence which goes and touches the heart. No. It is super soul within that person's heart that prompts that person from within. The memory of some desire in the past life or in this life, earlier in this life, where you had a desire ki, यार मेरे को ना ये समझना है यार, ये क्या है, ये कर्म का क्या मतलब है, मैं इतना फाइट मार रहा हूँ, कुछ हो नहीं रहा है, मैं इतना एफर्ट डाल रहा हूँ, I am trying my best यार, I have studied so much, I have done so much, still I don't clear this chartered accountancy exam, I don't clear this engineering entrance, होता ही नहीं है यार, ये क्या है, what is this गड़बड़? Now, you might have thought that, maybe you thought of it 15 years back, right, 30 years back. Now, when these words come, if the super soul in the heart, your desire is sincere, you're listening sincerely, you want to understand, क्या ये भगवत गीता है, मेरे को समझना है. Suddenly, these words which came out of my mouth, I am just the instrument. Through my mouth, these words came, they touch your heart, the super soul within says, beta sun, you are looking for an answer? Yes, suno beta, here is the answer. And suddenly that answer enlightens us. We become illuminated suddenly. So it is not that, oh, मैंने कुछ एकदम स्पेशल बोल दिया, अरे क्या बढ़िया बोला प्रभु जी. No. I am speaking the same word. I am repeating what I have heard from Srila Prabhupada, what I have heard from my guru, from Radha Gopinath Prabhu, from so many Shiksha gurus that I have. I am simply repeating their words. Nothing special. There is no Shridama Sakha flavor to this. This is just repeating. But if it is the Lord's desire, suddenly these words will touch somebody. And if it is not His desire, they will only appeal to the intelligence. God, lecture diya, amazing, mazal, very nice, so stimulating. But it doesn't touch the heart. As Gopinath Prabhu, Radha Gopinath Prabhu says, information, no transformation. ऐसा भी हो सकता है. So the Lord is ultimate. He is the ultimate sanctioner. इसे ना भगवान की इच्छा के बगैर एक पत्ता भी नहीं हिल सकता. आपके हृदय के अंदर कुछ फ्लटर भी नहीं होगा अगर भगवान की इच्छा ना हो. अगर आपकी इच्छा भी हो, even if you have a desire that I want to understand Bhagavad Gita, यार इतने सालों से सुन रहा हूँ, कुछ पल्ले नहीं पड़ता मेरे. Even if you have a desire, until the Lord sanctions it, it won't touch your heart. So this is what is very important to understand from this sanction, right? From this section, right, of the Gita. Everything is controlled by Krishna. The super soul. The soul may desire, the body may be willing, the senses may act, everything may be there. Endeavor may be there. But if the Lord doesn't sanction, nothing happens. But if the Lord is willing, if the Lord sees that there is a sincere desire here, like for example, अगर आपके मन में सही तरीके से इच्छा है कि यार इतने साल हो गए मैं भगवत गीता सुन रही हूं, लेकिन यार मेरे को जिंदगी में कुछ ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन नहीं आ रहा है, आई एम नॉट एबल टू, यार दिस Hidama Sakha is speaking and speaking but it is not making any difference to my life. I am where I am. My Lord, please somehow do something for me, right? What can happen? One fine day, I say something, right? I say something completely foolish, something that's completely unrelated. Or you hear the lecture of someone else. किसी और का lecture सुनते हैं. That person may not be eloquent. That person may not speak like this, words may not come. But something that person says, attack, goes and touches your heart. Purity is the force. If there's purity in the heart, that gets transferred. The person is able to touch your heart immediately and there is transformation. So it is not just our endeavor. We may try, but with our muscles are not developed. हमारा body है नहीं ready उसके लिए. Like, Radha Gopinath Prabhu gives this beautiful example for us to understand that without Lord's sanction, nothing special can happen in this world. He gives a beautiful example. He says, there is a child who is trying to pick up some weight. बच्चा उठा रहा है, उठा ही नहीं पा रहा है. बच्चे का बॉडी में उतना शरीर में ताकत है ही नहीं कि उठा सकता है. He's not able to lift. He's trying and trying and trying. And he's not giving up. Point is, he tried, didn't succeed. Again he tries, didn't succeed. Yet again he tries. ऐसे होते हैं एक एक बच्चे, वो चिकाटे बोलते हैं ना, डिटरमिन्ड बच्चे, वो छोड़ने को तैयार नहीं थे, वो फिर से ट्राई करते. He tries and tries and tries, and finally the father feels sorry for the child. इतना मेहनत कर रहा है. Father comes from behind the child and he lifts the weight. The child is lifting, but actually the father is lifting, and the child feels, "Arey, ho gaya," and he looks at the father triumphantly. I did it. I succeeded. Yes, yes. But the father very sweetly, he smiles at the child because he is pleased by the endeavor made by the child. कोशिश तो कर रहा है, एक जवाबदारी ले रहा है, एक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले रहा है, कोशिश कर रहा है. So who did it really? Was it you who lifted? Yes, it was you who lifted. But really, was it you who lifted? It was the Supreme Lord, sanction and material nature who suddenly provided superhuman strength to you to lift it beyond your capacity. This is how things work. So the Lord, if he sanctions, anything can happen. As they say, Allah meherban to gadha pehelwan. Even if you are a fool, number one, you will speak words that will inspire the hearts of somebody and they will become devotee. You may remain where you are. ऐसा बहुत बार होता है. हम लोग किसी किसी को प्रचार करते हैं, we preach to somebody and they become devotees and वो हमसे आगे निकल जाता है. There is an explanation for this also in Bhagavad Gita. Neha Vikramanashwasti 2.40 Bhagavad Gita. That also explanation is there. But that apart, you preach to somebody thinking कि मैं इसका कुछ उद्धार करता हूँ. Let me give him Krishna. Let me preach Bhagavad Gita. Let me tell him. Let me show my scholarship of Bhagavad Gita to this person. And you give that person Bhagavad Gita. वो आपका आधे घंटे का लेक्चर सुन के डिवोटी बन जाता है. तुरंत नेक्स्ट डे माला उठाता है, जपा चालू. And within few days he starts chanting 16 rounds. Within few days वो आपसे आगे निकल जाता है. Right? It is all happening by the arrangement of the Lord. You have to understand, I am not the doer. Everything is happening by Lord's, sanction. So this is a very important section for us to understand. The next verse, 15th verse, Krishna, he categorizes action into three, that is performed by body, mind, or words. So you may be doing action with the body, you may do action with the words, action with the with the mind also. Whatever action you do in all three categories, right? Either you are doing actions which are as per Shastric injunction or against the sanction of the Shastric injunctions. However, whether you're doing pious activity, you're doing impious activity with your adhishtanam, with your what adhishtanam, with the karta who does with adhishtanam, with the karanam and cheshtha, tries to do any activity, whether it is as per scripture or against scripture, still sanction of the Lord is needed. Even if you're doing something against the scripture, गलत काम कर रहे हो, वो भी भगवान के sanction के बगैर नहीं हो पाएगा. Not possible. This is what you have to understand, right? In the 16th verse, so this is the essence now of this section. Krishna says that if we think that with my power I have done it, ये मैंने किया है, मैंने इतनी मेहनत से इस बिजनेस को खड़ा किया है, मैंने इतना अच्छा प्रचार करके इस कांग्रेगेशन को खड़ा किया है, मैंने इन भक्तों को मनाया. The moment you think like this, you are the biggest fool. Why? Because you do this, you stay bound to the material world. Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashah ahankar vimood atma. Vimood. Moodha is a fool. Vimood atma karta aham iti manyate. You are thinking that I am the doer, you are the biggest fool, right? Krishna uses this in this verse, he uses the word kevalam, only, meaning only I have done it, right? So already Krishna has referred to this kind of thinking in the past. In the 3rd chapter, this verse which we just referred to, prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankar vimudatma karta ham iti manyate. He says this vimudha is ass-like people who are like asses, fools. वो सोचता है कि मैं करता हूं, लेकिन वो नहीं है. He is not. The ass thinks that I am carrying all these clothes from one place to the other. He may be doing it. It is actually the doer is the is the dhobi who is dumping everything on the ass. So we are not the doers, right? He is referred here. In 16th chapter, he is again characterized such thinking. Ishwaroham aham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. He characterizes this kind of thinking that Ishwaroham, I am the controller. Aham bhogi, right? I am the enjoyer. Siddhoham, I am the powerful. Balavan sukhi, I am the powerful person who gets everything done. This kind of thinking we have already discussed in 16th chapter as demoniac. This is demoniac behavior, thinking that I am the doer. Then here again, quoting Vedanta as his authority, Krishna points out that the lack of intelligence and the foolishness inherent in thinking ourselves as the controller and doers. He says, Pashyati akrita buddhitvan na sa pashyati durmati. Durmati, unintelligent, demoniac person. He thinks that I am the controller, I am the doer. So just see that the whole world, sari dunya, many times we have referred to this in the past also. If for those of you who have been hearing for many years, you would recall we say the whole world is swimming in one direction and the Krishna consciousness devotees are swimming in the other direction. Here is the reason why. Whole world is thinking, I am the doer. मेरे चेष्टा से, मेरे एफर्ट से, मेरे इस शरीर से मैं कार्य करता हूं. कौन है भगवान? I don't believe in any god or anything like that. So whole world is thinking like that I am the doer. But in reality, Krishna is explaining over here in the Gita, sorry sir, all these 4 things together are equal to one big zero if I don't give the tick mark. I don't give the sanction, it's not going to happen. As they say in the Western world, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen, my friend. Very clear, right? So like that, Krishna is explaining here. So, however, when we act out of, so if we understand this, just see how the whole paradigm changes. our thinking, our acting, हम लोग सब कुछ बदल जाएगा उसके बाद। जैसे ही हम लोग को ये समझ में आता है कि देखो भाई, हम लोग का शरीर है जिससे हम लोग कुछ कार्य करते हैं, बट ये कार्य का सैंक्शनर कौन है? सुप्रीम लॉर्ड है। So I have to act as per the Lord's sanction, otherwise nothing's going to happen. So I start depending on the Lord. I do my best, I do my activity, I do my cheshtha with my sharir, I do my cheshtha, I make all efforts, but full dependence. भगवान आपकी इच्छा ना हो तो ये नहीं होगा. The whole paradigm of work changes. But when we act out of false ego like a doer, मैं कर रहा हूं, मैंने किया है, then what does the super soul do? The super soul acts like a friend who carries out our desires from our previous lives. अपना जो कर्मा है, अपना जो डिजायर है, accordingly he calls material nature. अच्छा, ये व्यक्ति का ये डिजायर है, अब ये डिजायर का टाइम आ गया है और इसका इच्छा भी है, इसका कर्मा भी है, चलो अभी आप सर्कमस्टेंस अरेंज करो, या आप सर्कमस्टेंस मत अरेंज करो. So your happiness or your distress, both are already sanctioned by the Lord. God says, let him put this effort, let him be frustrated, but he will not get what he wants. Or let him put his effort, let him not put his effort also, but still he will get it. Because उसका इच्छा था, वो मतलब उसका इच्छा था कि ऐसे टाइप की पत्नी मिलनी चाहिए, उसकी इच्छा थी कि ऐसे टाइप का पति मिलना चाहिए, फिर उसने एफर्ट किया नहीं किया, उसको मिल जाता है वो. He gets or she gets, right? This is what happens when you act out of a doer. I am doer, I want. You think that you put the effort, you think that you did this, but ultimately the Lord sanctions and it happens, right? So in the 17th verse, Krishna says that one who knows the instruments of work, who knows himself as the worker and the Supreme Lord as the supreme sanctioner, such a person is perfect in doing everything. Such a person is not bound by anything. Karma doesn't bind him. The reaction does not bind such a person. Why? Because he is doing everything as per the will of the Lord. One must learn to do everything. One must. So you may think कि यार ये सुन के मैं तो थोड़ा ज्यादा कंफ्यूज हो गया. पहले I was anyway confused. Now I'm more confused. How to do now? Now there are so many things, so many moving parts. Earlier I just do. Like Nike ad, just do it. Now I have to think कि अच्छा मेरा मैं हूँ सोल, मेरी इच्छा है, फिर मेरा शरीर है, फिर मेरे सेंसेस है, फिर भगवान है, अभी मैं करूँ तो क्या करूँ? What to do, right? So Prabhupada gives us, in this Bhagavad Gita, these purports, they are our saviors. That's why we should read, we should study the purports of Srila Prabhupada, because they are our saviors. They help us to understand. One must learn the will of the Lord and work according to it. If one does that, then there is no question of karma applying to us, because one is simply acting as an instrument as per the will of the Lord. This is the cause of liberation. But this cannot be whimsical. I cannot say I think this is the will of the Lord. मुझे ऐसा लगता है. मैंने बहुत लेक्चर सुने तो मेरे को मालूम है. मैंने बहुत व्हाट्सएप पे बहुत ज्ञान आता है मेरे को रोज. I am part of this board, that board, this group, that group. I keep getting a lot of information, so I know what to do. No, we need to be properly guided. Don't be whimsical. Don't think I know. We don't know. We don't know. We have to approach higher authorities. We have to approach Guru. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadek shanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. We have to approach the spiritual master. We have to approach Guru with our hands folded. My Guru, I am fool number 1. Please instruct me. Please tell me what I should do. Guru will instruct us. With that instruction, we know what to do, what not to do. We know एकदम clear कि अच्छा भी मेरे को ऐसे करना है, right? So if one acts out of false ego, thinking oneself to be the doer, fully attached. So a person who's thinking is a doer, what is his mindset? He is attached to both the process of doing, कि क्या करना है. He is attached to the fruits of the action also. Then what happens? Such a person becomes personally responsible. Personally responsible for their actions, and then they enjoy or they suffer as per whatever activity they have done, and which is in the depending on whether the activity is in the domain of sanctioned by scripture or not sanctioned by scripture, they will enjoy or suffer, but they are responsible. The karma that comes from that activity which they did thinking I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, मैं ये करके मुझे इसका फल मिलेगा, मैं ये कॉम्प्रोमाइज करूंगा, ये कॉम्प्रोमाइज करने से मुझे ये प्रमोशन मिलेगा, कोई बात नहीं, आई एम ओके, क्या होगा ज्यादा से ज्यादा देखी जाएगी, चल मैं देख लूंगा. So then you have done it thinking I am the doer, and you get that promotion also maybe, but along with that promotion uske साथ चिपका हुआ, stapled to that promotion comes the weak karma, which you will either suffer in this lifetime or in future lifetime. Next lifetime you will suffer for something which you won't even understand. अरे क्या हो गया, क्या किया मैंने, कुछ किया ही नहीं, जबरदस्ती कोई आके मेरे को लात मार के चला गया, ये क्या हो गया, right? This is how karma works. It is mystical, it is difficult to understand, but this is the understanding. This is how things work, right? So if you are acting on the instructions of a higher authority coming in proper parampara, then we are not responsible. Like Prabhupada gives the example of a soldier. There's a soldier, and that soldier, he goes and fights in the battlefield, and he kills 100 people in the battlefield. He gets a Paramveer Chakra on Independence Day, or a Veer Chakra, or whatever it is, right? But that same soldier, if he goes and kills a civilian, he goes to his neighborhood and कुछ झगड़ा हो जाता है neighbor के साथ, और वो अपना बंदूक उठा के उसको उड़ा देता है. He is immediately court-martialed. They don't say, "Are he's Paramveer Chakra recipient." No, they will immediately court-martial him and put him in jail, or maybe even hanged, right? Because who gave you the permission to do this? Just because you have the power, you have great responsibility with that also. You have to understand that. Right? So human being has great responsibility because he has great resource. He has this intelligence to understand all these 5 factors. कुत्ते को समझा के बोलो. Today, any of you, if I hope most of you, I presume most of you don't have a dog, but if anyone has a dog, go and explain this lecture of 5 factors of action to your dog. उसको क्या समझ में आएगा? कुछ भी नहीं. Human being को थोड़ा तो समझ में आता है, right? So because you understand, therefore you are responsible. So similarly, a soldier acting on the authority of commanding officer versus acting independently, different reaction comes. Similarly, you acting on the instructions of Guru, there is no reaction. If you're really acting as per instructions of Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita, there is no reaction. But if not, action is there. So finally, in the 18th verse, Krishna speaks about this impetus or inspiration. So before any activity can take place, some impetus is needed. ये सब शुरू होने के लिए कुछ inspiration चाहिए कि नहीं? कोई भी action करने के लिए some inspiration is needed. So he says there is a thinking, feeling, willing, which is a function of the mind. The mind says, यार आज ना मौसम बड़ा अच्छा है, कुछ पकोड़े हो जाए. मतलब बारिश का मौसम है, कुछ पकोड़े हो जाए, right? The mind reminds that in the past you had it was raining heavily, you had gone to your college, भीग गए थे, और गरम गरम कोई एक पकोड़ा का स्टॉल था, गरम गरम पकोड़े बस खाए, मजा आ गया यार. Mind reminds you, आज भी वही मौसम है, आज भी बारिश हो रही है, आपके पास तो घर में पकोड़े का सामान भी है, आज पकोड़े हो जाए, right? So there is a thinking, feeling, willing of the mind. Mind thinks. Dhyato vishayam pumsam sangaste upajayate. A desire to have that sense object comes. And sanga sanjayate kama. Chalo yaar pakode ho jaye. To tell your wife, acha yaar ek pakode ban sakte hain kya? Right? And now the endeavour has started. You have had a desire with your working sense. You could have used these working senses to go and make, but you used a different working sense. You used your tongue to tell your wife, can you please make some nice hot pakoras for me? Then we can offer it to the Lord and eat, whatever. But you have told your wife with your working sense. You could use your hands working sense to go and make those pakoras, whatever. So endeavor you made. Now, wife has to also accept. She has to make endeavor, right? And if the Lord doesn't desire, then she will come and tell you, घर में तेल नहीं है, there's not enough oil to deep fry. कल बनाऊं क्या? So आपका desire fulfill नहीं हुआ, right? So you understand there's thinking, feeling, willing in the mind that creates inspiration. That inspiration can also come from scripture or from Guru. Now you hear something in the Bhagavad Gita, you hear something in the lecture, you feel inspired. Yeah, yaar, I should read Gita. Yaar. I think there is tremendous information available in the scripture. It is not just some karmanne vadikara se. अरे बहुत है इसमें यार, मेरे को करना चाहिए. We feel inspired. So inspiration comes from within or from without. It can come from inside. By hearing something, by seeing something, some inspiration comes. Yeah, ये करना है मेरे को. Sometimes it comes from without, it comes from outside, right? So when the inspiration is there, so I'll conclude now and summarize for everyone. So as I said, the 18th chapter, first 12 verses and these 6 verses, we'll try and bring it together. So just to conclude this verse, when the inspiration is there, inspiration, mujhe karna, I want to speak to you Bhagavad Gita, and the worker is there, spirit soul is there, then actual activity takes place with the help of the senses by the sanction of the Supreme Lord. This is the summary. There has to be inspiration, there has to be the worker who has a body with senses, with the sanction of the Lord, then actual activity takes place. These are the 5 factors of action. So to summarize, just to bring it all together, right? We spoke about akarma in the previous 12 verses, renounced action, and here we have spoken about the factors of action. So action में क्या क्या factors हैं और ये action का consciousness क्या होना चाहिए, दोनों इस section में summarize हो गए. So it's a very powerful section. So I request you to just pay attention for 1 more minute, okay? First, to act, some inspiration is needed. Where do we get that inspiration from? We should take that inspiration as devotees. Now we're discussing as devotees or as aspiring devotees. We should take that inspiration from scripture, from Guru. We should read Srimad Bhagavatam because it changes our aspirations. We should read Bhagavad Gita because it changes our aspirations. Otherwise, our aspirations are only material aspirations. मुझे promotion चाहिए, मुझे बैंक बैलेंस चाहिए, मुझे ये चाहिए, मुझे वो चाहिए, बड़ा घर चाहिए, मुझे बड़ी गाड़ी चाहिए, मेरे बच्चे अच्छे होने चाहिए, ये होना चाहिए. Only material aspirations. But when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, when we read the scriptures, nectar of devotion, we get spiritual aspirations. So inspiration is needed. First, to act, inspiration needed. Get that inspiration from scripture. Then we understand on the knowledge of the Gita, I am not the doer, right? I have an ichcha based on what I have heard. I have an ichcha to serve the Lord like this. Now I will do my best. For whom? Now we get first 12 verses. For Krishna. I will do my activities to the best of my abilities with these working senses. With my ichcha, I will endeavor for Krishna. Right? For this to happen, this body, the working senses, and the endeavor that I put under the sanction of the Supreme Lord, they act in concert. It's like a concert, like an orchestra, everything comes together and it happens, right? After the act is done, I am not attached to the fruits. I don't attach myself to the fruits. I do the activity. Whom I'm doing for? I'm doing for Krishna. I'm not doing for anybody. I'm doing for Krishna. So when I'm doing for Krishna, I am only pleased with the activity. इसमें से फल मिला नहीं मिला मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है भगवान, मैं आपके लिए कर रहा हूँ, right? So we are not attached to the fruits, and gratefully, finally, whatever comes, whatever fruits come, bitter fruit comes, sweet fruit comes, spicy fruit comes, sweet fruit comes, sour fruit comes, bitter, whatever fruit comes, we will gratefully accept it as the grace of the Lord. My Lord, whatever you have given, I am so grateful. I did not deserve this, but you have given it to me. I am so grateful. or I deserved more punishment, more suffering, but you're giving me only so much. I am so grateful. If we act like this, right? Inspired by scripture, understanding we are not the doer, acting for Krishna, putting all our endeavor, our intelligence, our senses, our body in the service of Krishna, not being attached to the fruits of that activity, we act like this, then we are on the liberated platform. There is no sinful reaction that is going to come. And that is the essence of these first 12 verses. And last 6 verses, 18.13 to 18.18, that we have completed today. I thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. You have to understand that everything that has been spoken today, it is only why we say in the end Srila Prabhupada ki jai, why we say Gurudev ki jai. क्यों बोलते हैं हम लोग? ये एक बोलने का, इट मे बी समथिंग दैट इज मैकेनिकल. एट द एंड ऑफ लेक्चर सब लोग बोलते हैं प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरुदेव की जय. चल ठीक है यार, बोल दिया, मैंने भी बोल दिया, जय जय. नो, द मीनिंग ऑफ प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रील गुरुदेव की जय मीन्स व्हाट? आई एम नॉट द डूअर, दे आर द डूअर. They have inspired me. This Guru Parampara has provided the words. So now, if at all any glory comes, it is all their glory. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Meri jai nahi. It is the glory of the devotees by whose inspiration I am sitting here and speaking few words of the Gita. This is what we should understand. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions, any comments from anybody?
Prabhuji, Ravi here. I have a question.
Yes, Ravi.
You spoke about these five causes of the activities, and one of them is the endeavor, which is basically the the effort that we put, and the
Yeah.
effort is largely influenced by what we desire, right? And you did mention that by reading Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or other various scriptures, you are able to think in a particular direction, because they will influence your desires. Now there will be a lot of situations where people are either not knowledgeable of, or they are not aware of
Yeah.
these scriptures.
Yeah.
In such cases, since we say that Krishna does everything, the Supreme Lord, who is influencing the desire itself?
So the great question actually, the desire is not influenced by anybody. See, to an extent, okay, so I'll combine the knowledge of what we have discussed today with the concept. I'm borrowing a concept from the 16th chapter. You were there when we were discussing 16, the three modes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, desire is something that comes completely from the individual, from the soul. Desire is, the Lord never intervenes in the desire. The only thing that is mine and nobody else's, everything in this material world belongs to the Lord, including this body. I am just the caretaker of this body while I am residing in this body. Everything belongs to God. Only one thing is mine, desire. The independent will to do what I want, right? I have a desire. I have let's say, my only business is to desire, right? That desire is the independence that is given to the living entity. Living entity is given, one moment, sorry. Living entity is given this desire, this ability to desire. Now, that desire, however, is influenced by the three modes. Now, if I have acted again and again and again and again in the mode of passion or mode of ignorance all my life, all my previous lives, and in this lifetime, right? That's just who I am. That's just who I have become. बस मैं यही हूँ यार, मैं कुछ change नहीं कर सकता. So the modes are like ropes. They tie you, right? So even the desires that come in your heart are kind of influenced by the modes you are in. मतलब मैं कीचड़ में हूँ तो मैं कीचड़ का जो जो desires है वही मैं desire करूंगा. You know, it's like that. So to an extent, the circumstances that I am in based on my previous karma and the modes that I have acquired, they kind of influence my desire, but the desire is still mine. I can still choose to rise above this कीचड़. I can still choose that यार ये lecture मैंने सुना तो सही, जमा नहीं यार, was not practical है प्रभु जी, कुछ भी theoretical बोल के चले गए, एक कोई practical है क्या, कोई कर सकते क्या है, not rubbish, I don't agree. और संबंध में से यार he talks like a fool, but words he is repeating are Prabhupada's words. This makes sense. I think I should try it, right? So it is the individual desire of the person. The impetus is the same, right? अभी there are 27 people on this call, including me. मैं भी हूँ उसमें, मैं भी सुन रहा हूँ, मैं जो बोल रहा हूँ अपने लिए भी बोल रहा हूँ, right? 27 people on this call. Each person is going to respond to this impetus, this stimulus in a different way. Their desires will be evoked. That यार अच्छा बोला यार, कुछ अप्लाई करना चाहिए इसमें. But they are so much in mode of ignorance. अभी नहीं करो, ये थोड़ा ना, ये थोड़ा आप पहले थोड़ा अपना जो इच्छा वगैरह है ना सब पूर्ति कर लो, उसके बाद ये सब भक्ति कर लो. पहला पूर्ति फिर भक्ति, पहले भुक्ति फिर भक्ति. So the modes will drag you down. But if your desire is strong enough and your endeavor is strong enough, you will rise above the modes. Once out of 10 times, once you will succeed. नहीं यार, मेरे को try करना. Second time, third time, fourth time, then slowly you rise above till that rope is no longer able to tie. वो rope कट जाता है. वो desire जो आपको बांधे रख रहा था, वो कट गया, खटक. And now suddenly you are liberated from that one desire. That desire, it comes, it still comes, but now it no longer controls you. So that's how it works. There is modes, there is individual desire, which is completely independent. Nobody can control your desires. But there is an influence of the desires by the three modes. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji, and I just want to add to what you said. I mean, if in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Shukdev Muni goes and gives the discourse to Parikshit, of the Bhagavatam, he appears when Parikshit has just 7 days to live.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, right? And before that, I mean, obviously Parikshit would have had some desire, to get this knowledge, or to get this devotion. And suddenly when Parikshit is at the end of his life, he realizes, and then Shukdev Muni suddenly appears, and this entire Srimad Bhagavatam was discoursed.
Yeah.
So it is the desire, as you said, but sometimes what we call the dev, the sheer luck or the opportunity when you are in that situation helps you to rise to the occasion.
Yeah. So,
great, thank you.
So I think, yeah, it's it is definitely by the desire. If desire is there, then the Lord organizes things to happen. So if Parikshit had this desire to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, like you said, out of nowhere, Sukdev Goswami came, and he came to the banks of the Ganges and he spoke. And because he was speaking, so many other great dignitaries from all over the universe came there to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So everything happens by the arrangement of the Lord only. There is nothing that happens without his arrangement. But the desire of the living entity is still very important. So we have to have that desire. With that desire, everything can be organized. Anything else? Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, your lecture was too good. Most of our doubts and most of our clarification, generally we used to have that. Most of the things have been cleared, but the problem is we forget the immediately after hearing in this thing. So if the recorded lecture we get it, we want to hear and again on this topic, because this is the crux of the Bhagavad Gita, what you said today. And it is for the both for the material life or for the living life and for the spiritual life. Because most of the points which we day to day we get the doubts are all clarified. So what I request Prabhuji is, just if you can provide a recorded lecture, at least I think I should hear 100 times. So at least this thought process will start in us and it will have. Otherwise,
Guruji,
ultimately,
I'll just do one thing. We anyway record these lectures. So I put it on the HPNE group. Apparently you're from some different group. So I will just put my email ID here on the chat. Please note it down and send me a message, or I'll put my mobile number on this. So you just send me a WhatsApp, and I will send you the lecture recording individually.
thank you, Prabhuji, thank you. It is
Yeah.
too good today. You were most of the doubts which we has to have, that it is clarified.
Thank you, Guruji. All by the blessings of Guru. Nothing is
Thank
possible without that. Thank you.
thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions, comments? Anybody? Hare Krishna. So I think that's it. Thank you very much for your kind, patient hearing. And I look forward to continuing. Now, going forward, again, Krishna is going to speak a little bit about the three modes. You know, it's important for us to understand. Krishna has repeated about three modes in various places. In the 16th chapter, before that, in various places, he referred to the three gunas. Now, again, in the 18th chapter, going forward from 19 to 40, another 21 verses, 22 verses, he's going to speak about the three modes and different things in the three modes. So we will continue from there next time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Brahmankar, Brahme Prabhu, are you there?
Yeah, very much.